Welcome to The Disappearing Mind, a unique podcast helping you find clarity and support along your dementia journey. Now, join National Dementia Trainer and Coach Dawn Platt for an all-new episode.
Hi everyone, it's Dawn. Thank you for joining me again on the Disappearing Mind podcast. I'm so happy that you have joined me today. November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, a time to honor the millions of families whose lives have been touched by this disease, and a time to shine a light on what Alzheimer's disease truly is. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about what is Alzheimer's disease. We hear so much about it. Many people have lots of questions. So today, I want to address those questions here on the podcast. Today, more than 6.9 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. That number is expected to nearly double by 2050. But behind every statistic is a story. A father who no longer recognizes his daughter's face. A wife who forgets her wedding day but still feels the warmth of her husband's hand. Or a neighbor who walks their dog each morning but can't quite remember which house is home. There's no better time than right now to find and share support for Alzheimer's disease. During the month of November, as we discuss in this series, episodes that will shed light on what Alzheimer's disease is, what it's like to have Alzheimer's disease, and lots of other statistics and great information I think that you will find beneficial. As we look across the world and we see how prevalent this disease is, both past and present, people are walking the same journey. Some are newly navigating this diagnosis, while others are honoring loved ones that they've lost. Together, we form a community connected by compassion, resilience, and of course, hope. Hope for a cure. And one day we will see that cure. There is so much good information, research, and inspiration available today and throughout the month of November. You're going to see that highlighted throughout the United States and throughout the world. From new scientific discoveries that give us hope for a cure to everyday stories of love and perseverance that remind us why awareness matters. This month, it is more about statistics. It's about learning, sharing, and standing together. Today, we're going to explore what Alzheimer's disease really is, how it affects the brain, and why understanding the difference between normal aging and Alzheimer's disease can help us provide better care, earlier support, and deeper compassion for those who live with it and those who care for them. Alzheimer's disease is more than just memory loss. It's a slow unraveling of how the brain processes the world, how it understands time, language, emotion, and a place. It changes how a person thinks, feels, and connects. And yet, in the middle of all that change, humanity and emotion remain intact. People living with Alzheimer's disease still experience joy, fear, comfort, and love, even when words and logic fade. Our role as caregivers, friends, and loved ones is to meet them where they are, show empathy and support to them on this journey. Let's get into this in simple terms. Let's start with the basics. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disorder. It begins years before symptoms appear, as proteins in the brain called plaques and tangles. They start damaging nerve cells called neurons. Imagine the brain as a network of roads and highways. When everything is clear, messages travel smoothly. Thoughts, memories, movement, and speech. Alzheimer's disease is like a traffic jam forming all over the city. Slowly, those roads become blocked, and eventually, parts of the city go dark. The first area often affected is the hippocampus. That's the memory center of the brain, the part responsible for forming new memories. That's why early signs of the disease often show up as forgetfulness or confusion. The death of these brain cells is caused by a buildup of amyloid plaques and tangles called tau, which damage neurons across the brain and prevent them from communicating effectively, which eventually leads to widespread brain shrinkage and progressive loss of thinking, memory, and other cognitive abilities that the brain is responsible for. As the disease progresses, it affects language, reasoning, spatial awareness, which is the cognitive ability to understand where one's body is in relationship to other objects in the environment and how one can move through that space. It also even impacts personality. Here's kind of an example to help you understand some of the memory changes that occur in Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. So I once worked with a woman named Mary, a retired teacher, and she could recall childhood memories perfectly, but she couldn't remember how to make her favorite tea, something that she had done every morning for over 40 years. It wasn't that she wasn't trying. Her brain simply couldn't process the steps in the right order anymore. That's Alzheimer's disease. It's not a lack of will. It's a loss of connection between brain cells, between moments, and sometimes between people. So what is the difference between normal aging and Alzheimer's disease? Is something we have seen as our parents age, as our grandparents age. What is the difference between the two? And how are they impacted? So one of the biggest misconceptions is that Alzheimer's disease is just a normal part of aging, isn't it? Absolutely not. They're totally different. And totally the way that Alzheimer's disease impacts the brain is different than normal aging. Normal aging means that we might forget where we put our keys, but we remember them later. We might take longer to recall someone's name or need to write a reminder note to remind us to do things. That's the brain's natural slowing down process that we see as we age. Alzheimer's disease is different. A person may forget what the keys are for or put them in a place like the refrigerator or under the bed or another place that just isn't logical. They may forget how to drive home from a familiar place. They might forget names of close family members or repeat questions moments apart. So let's imagine John, a 76-year-old grandfather. His daughter notices he's been missing appointments and getting lost driving home from the grocery store, a route that he has taken for over 30 years. One day, she finds him sitting in his car in his driveway, unsure how to open the garage door. That's when the family realizes this is more than forgetfulness. It's disorientation and confusion. Clear signs that the brain is struggling with much more than age. Understanding this difference helps families act sooner. And even though this could be something that he's coping with because of another condition, such as poor nutrition or an infection or another disease process, this is the time that we want to get a medical assessment to start support early to see what we're dealing with is going to be really important as John progresses. So we know what kind of treatment and what the course will be for helping John in the long run. Early signs really do matter. And why do they matter? Early detection really makes a huge difference for both quality of life and future care planning. Some of the early signs that you might see, and I don't want you to overlook. I want you to think about them are memory loss that disrupts daily life. So general forgetfulness is something I think that many of us cope with, whether it's stress or we're just too busy or we're aging. But memory loss that actually disrupts daily life is going to be noticeable to other people. Difficulty completing familiar tasks, things like making that tea or making a recipe or using the remote or going somewhere or just something that has been real common for the individual. And now you notice that they're struggling with them. This could be a sign that something is happening. Changes in problem solving or judgment. When someone is doing something you absolutely know they would never have done in the way they have done it, this could be an issue and a sign, an early sign that is worth checking out. Trouble finding the right words. This is a very early symptom that we see. Word finding difficulty is what it's called. And you'll see this over and over. They'll begin to stumble with common words. Another sign that you should watch for. Other early signs are withdrawal from social or work activities. When these processing skills become diminished, it becomes more difficult for people to engage in social settings, to carry out tasks at work or even at home. And these also are early signs that should not be overlooked. And then noticeable mood or personality changes. We tend to see a little bit of that as we age, but if these are noticeable, fluctuating, out of the ordinary, you want to have them checked out. This is the time to talk to your doctor to get a memory screen. So I remember one gentleman that I worked with, his name was Robert, and he began accusing his wife of hiding his wallet. In reality, he had placed it in the linen closet. His frustration wasn't stubbornness. It was confusion mixed with fear, because when you lose something that's valuable, like a wallet or a purse, you start to freak out a little bit. You start to get concerned about that. And how could I do that? How could that happen? When families start to recognize these patterns, it's time to talk with the doctor, preferably one familiar with memory disorders. And if your doctor says to you, well, they're just getting older, please do not take that as solid. You want to pursue this. If you're noticing these things, then something's changing. You're spending time with your loved one. You know your loved one. Early detection and early treatment is critical in a good care plan, and the outcomes will be better for you and your loved one. There are memory clinics available in many metropolitan cities, hospitals. There are neurologists and even early diagnostic tools that can help rule out other causes like medication side effects, nutrition and vitamin deficiencies, complications of other medical conditions, or even depression, which can be very, very commonly seen in people who are aging. A diagnosis really isn't the end. It's the beginning of learning how to live differently. Let's talk a little bit about the human side of the diagnosis. Getting an Alzheimer's disease diagnosis can bring a lot of mixed emotions. It is impactful to both the person and to the family members. There's obvious fear, denial, sadness, and even relief. I've heard some people talk about that, oh, this is why this is happening. Now I know why this is happening. People often notice things themselves and never ever mention it to anyone else because they just can't figure it out, or maybe they're afraid. For some reason, it answers the question that they've been silently asking themselves: what is happening to me? What is changing? Families often describe a sense of grief, grieving the loss of what was, while learning to embrace what still is. That is the biggest obstacle. I think for families, this change is disruptive to our life. When we're able to grieve that loss, but learning to embrace what still is, it's going to be very beneficial for us as we walk this dementia journey path together. I've seen so many incredible moments of strength through people that I've worked with. like my friend Nancy, whose husband was diagnosed in his early 60s with Alzheimer's disease. And she once told me, I realized I can't hold on to who he was. I'm choosing to love who he is now. And that was an incredible relief for her to know that life changes. It changes for everyone, whether you're just aging normally or you have another type of disease. It is a process of life. But I thought that was an incredible statement for her. And she really did that. She wanted to hold on to every piece of her husband, Tom, and their marriage. And I thought that was an incredible statement that she made. And I'll always remember that, Nancy. But that mindset really changed everything for Nancy. I think it gave her strength and a position to move forward from. When caregivers shift from correcting to connecting, focusing less on memory and more on emotion, they start to see glimpses of joy again. Let me unpack that a little bit. We do this as daughters, as spouses, as professionals. Oftentimes we focus on helping them with memory, which is kind of correcting or prompting and cueing, when we focus less on making that correction or supporting that memory to correct them that, no, John, it's not that, it's this. And we focus more on connecting on the emotion side of this disease and staying connected with them and living where they are, we will then see more joy again. We'll build a new relationship with them that really doesn't depend on whether they remember or not. I want to talk in this month of November. One of the most important things that we hear and through social media and through the Alzheimer's disease is hope in research and care. We get little glimpses of what's new and what's coming out. And it's important to know that there is incredible research going on by the Alzheimer's Association, by networks, by healthcare professionals around the world into finding a cure for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. But it's important to know that this research is active and it's evolving. Scientists are identifying biomarkers that can detect the disease much earlier than ever before. New treatments are beginning to show promise in slowing progression, giving people more time. We're seeing that, but beyond medication, there's another layer of hope, and that is lifestyle and prevention. Research is showing, and there is more support and evidence coming out about staying more physically active, eating a proper diet, a balanced diet, staying socially active and engaged, being part of the lifelong learning community, and good sleep. All of these things are showing promise in supporting brain health and longevity and being able to reduce cognitive loss at such a rapid rate. This is exciting to me. Even after a diagnosis, I've seen people, they're strong and they're determined to maintain their memories and their lifestyle as long as possible. And I'm seeing breakthroughs in that. I'm seeing evidence of people doing things that are saying, I'm going to live this life and I'm going to do the best I can. And year after year, I am seeing more lifestyle, more prevention type support coming forward and research, and people are really taking a hard look at this at a younger age. And I think that that's very important as we celebrate Alzheimer's Awareness Month in this month of November, and it's something that we all need to look at to support brain health. Even after diagnosis, quality of life matters. It matters for everyone. We all will pass away, unfortunately, but quality of life and how we live life every day is really what's going to matter in the long run. Things like music and meaningful activity, emotional connection can really awaken parts of the brain untouched by the disease. There are multiple facets of our brain that we have not even tapped into. And we're seeing how people get into their art, get into their music, use talents and parts of the brain to develop activities and leisure activities that are really providing them with joy and quality of life. I've watched so many individuals living with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who no longer speak, suddenly sing every word of a song from their youth. So there are ways that we can connect. Music is so powerful in our lives. And because music lives in a different part of our brain, there are those sacred moments that remind us, even when words fade, the person remains, those memories remain. The power of music, the power of art, the power of family and relationships, those things are still there, and we're seeing them more and more. As a dementia coach, I've seen firsthand how education transforms caregiving. The more you know about the disease, the more you know about your individual diagnosis, and the more you know about prevention, the more you know about treatment, the more you know about options, is transforming caregiving and how you make choices and how you care plan and how you live life. When families understand that behaviors and memory changes are symptoms, not choices, they approach their loved one with compassion instead of correction. If you hear one thing today, you need to hear that this horrific disease and all of the ADRD diseases, they impact and the crux of behaviors and these changes, not the person. It's not about choice. It's not about they have suddenly changed. It is the disease that you're talking to. It's the disease that you're looking at. And you can approach your loved one differently with compassion and understanding instead of trying to fix this disease, which at this time does not have a cure. And when you're able to get there and live with what you have in a new mindset with an open mind, you are going to really value that life in such a greater way. It's really going to bring a lot of relief to your life. And so I encourage you to look at holistic treatment, to look at diversity and what is available to you. And there's a lot available to you. And I hope through listening to the podcast, we're able to enlighten you in some of those areas. But there is a lot of hope in research and care, and you do have choices, and you can make your own decisions. That's what's most important. I know that education is transforming caregiving. When you understand that these memory changes are symptoms, not choices, you can approach your loved one and this disease in a whole different light. If you're listening today and you have concerns about a family member, start with the small steps. Schedule a cognitive screening for yourself and your loved one. Keep a simple journal of changes that you notice. Reach out to your local Alzheimer's organization or memory support groups, especially this month. Find one that you can connect to. Learn or just be in the background and listen to what people are saying. And most importantly, take care of yourself as a caregiver. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's really important that you're in a good place so that you can make good decisions for your loved one on this caregiving journey. Alzheimer's Awareness Month isn't only about raising awareness of a disease. It's about honoring people who live with it. Those who are with us now, those who will be with us, and those that have passed. And especially those who walk beside them every single day. That's what Alzheimer's Awareness Month is. If ever gone to an Alzheimer's walk or a large gathering where people are coming together with a common cause and a common need and a hope for a cure, it is very, very powerful. If you have a walk coming up near you, I would encourage you, whether you walk or not, go to the festivities, watch the people. You will know then that you're not alone, that this disease impacts thousands and thousands of people every single day. Awareness brings understanding. Understanding builds compassion, and compassion changes care. So get involved. Reach out to someone who might be struggling. Educate yourself. Share helpful resources, or simply make a memory with someone you love. Each act of awareness, big or small, makes a difference. If you know someone facing Alzheimer's disease, reach out this month with patience, with presence, and with kindness. Because even as memories fade, the heart still remembers love. Until next time, this is Dawn Platt. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe and share this podcast to someone that it can impact. Make it a memorable day.
Thank you for joining us for the Disappearing Mind podcast. We hope it's helped you find clarity and support along your journey. Be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode, visit our website to suggest future topics, and share the podcast with friends and family.